I remember the night the king's voice shook the whole palace. It was the first time I had ever seen him that angry. He had just discovered that his daughter, the princess, wanted to marry Obiaje, the poor hunter. The king's roar carried through the halls like thunder. "Never," he shouted. "My daughter will not marry a man with nothing." We servants froze where we stood, too afraid to even breathe. The air itself felt heavy. But the princess, she did not run, and she did not cry. She stood tall in front of her father, her eyes steady. "Father," she said, her voice calm but strong, "I love him. Obiaje is brave. Obiaje is honest. Obiaje is known by every man in this kingdom as a great hunter." The king's face twisted with fury. To him, love meant nothing without wealth and power. He had already promised her to a prince from a neighboring land. A man with gold, cattle, and armies. Not a hunter who came home each evening with little more than a bundle of firewood and a day's catch. But what the king never understood was this: I had seen the truth with my own eyes. Every evening, after Obiaje returned from the bush, the princess would slip out of the palace. Barefoot, sometimes with a shawl around her shoulders, she would walk past us quietly. I had seen her meet him under the great Iroko tree. There, she never looked like a princess. She looked like a woman free. She would sit with him on the ground, her royal gown catching dust, and she never cared. He would share roasted yam or bushmeat with her, and she would eat with her hands, laughing. They laughed a lot. That was what stayed with me the most. The way her laughter rang through the trees, and the way his eyes lit up whenever she looked at him. She didn't love his wealth, because he had none. She loved his heart, and the way he carried himself with honor. He never treated her like a crown to be won. He treated her like a person to be loved. But the king's anger grew with each passing day. He set guards around the palace, forbade her from leaving, and even warned Obiaje that if he dared come near again, he would be punished. Still, every night, she found a way. She moved like the wind, quiet and determined. Past the guards, past the gates, out into the night where Obiaje waited. People in the village began to whisper. Some mocked her. "What kind of princess loves a poor hunter?" they asked. Others shook their heads in disbelief. But many admired her courage. And Obiaje. He never bragged, never boasted. He only waited for her faithfully each night. When she came, he listened to her dreams. She would tell him how heavy the palace felt, how she wished to be free of the crown pressing on her life. He told her of the dangers of the hunt, the leopard tracks he followed, the silence of the bush, the hunger that sometimes clawed at his belly. They belonged to different worlds, but under that tree, they were equal. The king tried everything to stop it. He sent her away for weeks, hoping she would forget him. But when she returned, she ran straight back to Obiaje. He punished her with silence, with anger, with threats. But nothing could kill the fire in her heart. In time, the people began to side with her. They respected Obiaje. He was poor, yes, but everyone knew his name. When the hunter spoke of courage, his name came first. He had faced beasts that others ran from. He had provided for families when no one else would. He was poor in gold, but rich in honor. And honor is something even a king cannot buy. The king realized he was losing the battle. The kingdom itself was watching. And so, with a heavy heart, he gave in. The wedding was not like the ones the king had planned. There were no golden thrones, no princes in shining robes. Instead, it was held under the white sky, with drums and flutes, and people from every corner of the land came to see it. I stood among the crowd that day, and I will never forget the smile on the princess' face. She looked brighter than the sun, as if the whole world had finally bent to her heart's desire. And Obiaje, he held her hand as though it was the most precious thing he had ever hunted, and the only one he would never let go. That night, the songs of joy carried through the air until dawn. The people danced, not for wealth, not for power, but for love, love that refused to be silenced. And I learned something that day: love does not bow to crowns or riches. True love bows only to truth.